So Tejesh, just for the information for all the members and especially yourself, this particular session is going live on Facebook as well.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we should now start. It's almost now 6:03. So we're respecting the time. I'll start the event. Just a minute, please. Great. So we'll start the event. Okay. So very good evening, warm evening to all the ladies and gentlemen, students present here in this webinar. Welcome to the today's enlightening webinar on the topic with data as the new oil. When I say the new oil, we are referring to data, how to enable insights using your data assets. I am Dr. Jayaprakash Paliwal and I'm thrilled to be your host for this session. In this era where data is often referred to as a new oil, the ability to harness and refine this valuable resource is more crucial than ever. Our modern world generates an understanding, generates an unprecedented amount of data, and the key to staying ahead lies in the transformation of this raw data into an actionable insight. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Tejesh Muni with us, a distinguished expert in the field of data analytics and insights. Tejas brings a wealth of experience and a deep understanding of how to effectively leverage the data to drive strategic decision making and innovation. So he is currently serving as a portfolio lead, delivering enterprise solutions within business intelligence, cloud, analytics, and data warehousing spaces. He has very successfully led multiple initiatives as a senior BI architect for multiple enterprise customers. He worked as a BI COE lead with focus on building and managing internal centers of excellence. He has designed and developed data models, data pipelines, and enterprises reporting systems for customers belonging to different different business domains, including retail, digital media, insurance, hospitality, and automobile. Throughout this webinar, Tejas will guide us through the process and techniques necessary to unlock the potential of data assets. Whether you are a data professional, a business leader, or someone keen to understand the power of data, this session is designed to provide you with a valuable insights and practical knowledge which Tejas carries. We encourage you to participate at the end of the session with your question and answers and engage with the content to maximize your learning experience. Now, without further being a hindrance to this particular webinar and the expert, please join me in welcoming our esteemed expert, Mr. Tejesh Muni. So a big round of applause, Tejesh. So the floor is yours. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Paliwal. Good evening, everyone. Happy Saturday. Thanks all for joining in on a Saturday evening. It's a real, I would say, privilege for me to be amongst you all today. As Paliwal sir said, right, data as the new oil. This is a very small point of view on how, right, data as an asset is getting leveraged or should be leveraged within any enterprise. In today's world, we all know, right, how important is data. With the ever increasing modernization and technical enhancements which are happening in today's world, the sheer volume, variety, and velocity with which, right, the data gets generated, it's increasing tremendously. So is the complexity, right, to store data, to process that data. Just to quote an example, right, around the scale at which the data is growing, as per a study done by Google, since the beginning of human civilization until 2003, the total amount of data, right, which was generated on this earth, on this planet, was around 5 exabytes. And now if I speak about today, this amount of data gets generated just in 2 days. Okay, so it's the data is the real thing. So with any enterprise, right, trying to derive value from data, right, it is very important that they are able to manage its quality. They are able to report on the right data, right, at the right time, so that they are able to take the right decisions using the data. So any enterprise leader, right, who is planning to build a data strategy for his organization, typically there are many questions which come to the leadership's mind, right? Their organization wants to make effective use of data, but they also have systems in place. Okay, so any organization would have HR data in place, finance data in place, but what type of decisions they should be making, right, using that data? So at times they are overwhelmed with the possibilities, the opportunities which the data offers. Secondly, with so much data available even within an enterprise, are there the right oversight, controls, governance, which is applied on top of data, right? So that is also an important consideration for any enterprise. Most importantly, with so much data around, right, is the organization able to derive the right insights? Is the data which is available with the organization, is it helping it to gain the right competitive advantage, right? That remains the biggest question for any executive leader who is planning to operate with data. And that is where the journey from data to decision begins. Okay, so for any organization, right, who wants to use data for making effective decisions, that is to become a data-driven organization, it is very important that there has to be a corporate strategy which any organization should align upon to ensure that the company's maturity around data management improves. Secondly, within the industry, there is now a very focused approach around defining the ownership of data, defining roles and responsibilities of people. These responsibilities can be within the area of business, it can be for IT, and then there is a specific data function which is getting conceptualized in a lot of organizations today. So that is something which has become or which has started becoming a norm with many organizations we work with. At the same time, there is a need for every associate, every leader who is working within an organization to become data literate. Okay, so leveraging data to make decisions, right, is something which needs a cultural and an attitude change, right? It needs the right data literacy. Uh, and at the same time, right, just using experiential knowledge, using gut feeling, right? So all those type of behaviors, right, have to be shaded, and then using pure data to make decisions has to become a norm for an organization to be successful, right, and to become more data driven. Now, data is valuable only when it is well governed and well managed, right? So what do you mean by a data which is well governed and well managed, right? So as you can see on the screen right now, I'm showing a diamond, right? That diamond is nothing but the value which any enterprise might get from the data. And then to generate that value, there are different facets. Okay, there are 6 facets you can see on the side, and there is culture at the center. Okay, which is important for an organization. These facets are important for an organization to become data driven. Okay, so first is ownership. So how is the data ownership If there is data getting HR data, say for example, getting generated, who should own that data? You might have financial data, sales data, how the ownership should be defined, how the accesses for the data should be defined. Governance around data, uh, instead of having, hey, I hope I'm audible, team.
Yes, yes, you're audible. Perfectly good. Right?
Okay, thanks. So the next part is governance and defining roles around data. I'll shed more light on it in the coming slides, but it is important for us to ensure that any organization which uses data effectively has standard nomenclature, business rules, standard practices which are defined around data, right? That's where governance comes into picture. Apart from that, there's a technology angle to it, as we all know. So, using the right set of tools to solve your business problems is the third facet. Apart from that, ensuring data quality, right? So, when data comes from a lot of different sources, when it gets integrated into a centralized repository, ensuring that the data conforms to all the norms, right? There is no duplication of data. Business gets the right information which they need, right? So there is an ocean of data which is available, but it is important that the decision makers get exactly what they need to report upon and to make decisions. At the same time, the person who is intended should only see the data, right? So that is where it is important to ensure that the necessary access controls, authorizations, authentications are applied on top of data. And finally, consumption of data, right? There are a lot of analysts today, right, who want to do their own reports, who wants to use data to make their decisions. That is where there are so many BI tools, analytics tools, which are available in market, enabling these tools for business, training them around that, and ensuring that they are able to leverage it effectively to make decisions is also very important, right? So in order to derive the right value for data, it is important that all these things are integrated into any organization strategy. And that is where, and at the same time, building that culture, educating the right set of, providing the right set of education to the associates is important. Now, when we work with different customers, right, they have different levels of maturity when it comes to working with data. So, any organization, right, who is planning to become more data driven, they start with a low level of maturity. And then in this stage, it is more about building awareness, telling the associates how best they can use data. At this point of time, at least organization has taken the right step, right first step, wherein they understand the importance of data. But at the same time, at this first level, right, low level of maturity, as you can see, the data is stored in silos. Okay, so HR team would have their own data. They'll only use HR's data, right, to make some operational decisions. Similarly for finance, right? Um, so in such a case, right, if a CEO wants to do a report, right, wherein he wants to club HR and finance data, you need to then do a lot of manual work to get that integrated reporting created. Since these systems are new, right, most of the, at times there are no systems as well, the information is tracked in Excels. There are a lot of data quality issues which come into picture, and then those have to be resolved manually. As the organization embraces the data to decision journey, they start implementing new systems. They start educating the team on ground on different tools, technologies, make them data ready. And at the same time, they bring in the right set of governance within the organization. Okay, so that is where a lot of investment, if we see this medium level of maturity, at this point of time, there is a central data function which gets established. Um, when this function exists, data from different departments, for example, different sources, it just lands into a common single central repository. If I talk more from a cloud architecture standpoint, you might have also heard concepts of data lakes, right? Wherein this data lands. Now, once this data lands, it has to be managed properly. So there are different owners for different subject areas from which the data lands. And accordingly, they are responsible for actually supporting use cases around each of these areas. Uh, from a leadership standpoint, there is a lot of investment on the technology front as well, right? There is nowadays there's a lot of investment on cloud. Um, Necessary infrastructure budgets are assigned at the start of the year based on any organization's decision needs. Um, at the same time, at this level of maturity, most of the analytical use cases, right, which the organization solves, these are more internal in nature. Okay, so they use, say, this data to make some aggregate reports, right? Say, if I take an example of a retailer, so doing last 13-week analysis on how the sales have gone, right? If there are, say, for Reliance Digital, there are 1,500 stores across India. So, how these stores are doing at an aggregate level, how they are doing compared to last year. So, all those type of decisions through operational reports are enabled at this point of time. As the organization matures further, they use this data to drive business models and partnerships. Okay, so that is where they have tried to get a competitive edge, right? So a lot of third-party data, which may be competitor data, gets integrated into the system. They use that data to actually drive certain decisions. At the same time, they enable data for external consumption as well. Okay, so if as an enterprise, I want to sell my data as a product, okay, so even the concept of data product is gaining a lot of ground these days, wherein, right, any enterprise who feels, right, its data can be used by the outside participants as well, they create data products and extend the necessary analytics to support those external consumption use cases. At the same time, any matured organization then starts leveraging advanced predictions, AI, ML tools, right, to make more deeper decisions and smarter decisions. So this is where the actual value of data is realized and it becomes a real product and business enabler. So typical pitfalls while enabling right, or for creating a data driven organization is, first one I would say is unclear data ownership. So since data comes from different sources, right, into a centralized system, it's important that the right set of owners for data is decided. uh, Once the data gets integrated, it's very important to clean data well and ensure that the necessary data quality norms are put in right at the start of this journey, so that, right, if at all there are any issues with the data, if there are any conformity issues, if there are any duplications within data, those are resolved right away. And at the same time, from a knowledge management standpoint, it is important to document all business definitions and glossaries so that the larger business, the larger set of users who use that data get benefited from it. Now, there is so much of data available, but not every data point which is enabled, right, by any source might be useful for reporting. So that is where it is important that the right information is enabled for the right person at the right time. We don't want to bring in, right, garbage data into our reporting. So that is where, right, only the data which is useful should be brought in, and that is where a change management process is activated. Okay, so many organizations, they work in an agile way, wherein for reporting use cases, right, they bring in data which is only report required to support a particular use case. While doing so, they will follow a continuous integration, continuous improvement type of a methodology, wherein every change, right, is incrementally added. There is a close collaboration between business and IT, wherein they prioritize what problems, business problems are to be solved with data. And then based on the prioritization, the IT team or the engineering team works on getting the necessary data integrated in the system. Many of you would feel that technology is the biggest deterrent of right, enabling a data-driven organization. That is not the case for sure. Based on a study, 62 to 63%, right? So around two-thirds of the challenges, right, which come along this journey are more from a people standpoint. Lack of knowledge on how to effectively use data, right? Um, Competitions, uh, I would say susceptibility to change. I think these are some of the important reasons which actually acts as a detriment, right, to any organization adopting to a change journey. So as we talk about, right, creating a data-driven organization, these are the different elements, okay, which on which business, IT, as well as data as a function work together to define or to derive the right outcomes, right? So once an organization vision or strategy is defined, you have to work on different elements to ensure that your data generates the right value for you. So data strategy is more about a corporate leader deciding, right, what problems they want to solve, um, what data points are required, and right, to solve that problem, and then how exactly that value will be driven or delivered. Um, for any data-driven business execution, right? As I have said before, it is important to make decisions based on facts rather than on assumptions. So that is where a lot of organization works towards harmonizing data across different business functions, across different business solutions. So gone are the days when the applications used to be siloed. uh, Today, most of the organizations, enterprises are embracing their a centralized data type of a platform. They create, as I said before, data lakes, a centralized storage, wherein all data from different business function come in, and they leverage the same for decision making. Uh, at the same time, there are different roles. I'll cover them briefly in the coming slides, which are actually defined now within all the enterprises, which are purely focused on data. Okay, and that is where a lot of opportunities lies these days, right? So there are various data specific roles which are there within the industry, which are purely there to support an organization make decisions through data, support change management process, and at the same time have some communication planning related things established. Once these basic processes are in place, then the next step is the analytics execution, right? That is where a lot of tools are available in the market through which insights can be driven, right? I think in the course which we have planned, we would be introducing you to some of the industry leading tools like Tableau, Power BI. There are different models which are used to drive AI ML analytics. And uh, at the same time, these tools are used to do right descriptive, predictive, prescriptive analysis in nature. So again, based on the nature of decision you want to make, you can opt for the necessary tools and get those decisions created. Um, Once this entire data platform is created, right, there's a complete information architecture which is generated, right? These are these big platforms which are either hosted on premise or on cloud, right? And then there are roles, there are some checks which are applied to ensure that these platforms are optimally managed. A lot of technicalities also come in there, right? How to manage compute, storage, the environment cost, while keeping in mind that the value which these platform brings in, it's not impacted. Um, Data governance, again, is more about ensuring that the data is well managed and secured. There are clear cut roles and responsibilities, and ensuring that the necessary processes, standards which are established around data, they are well adhered to. And finally, to manage this, or to, from an operational administrative plan standpoint, to manage this entire platform, there are admin teams which are actually working, right? This is again a different function which works to ensure that the business continuity is met. At the same time, if there are any service level agreements, SLAs, right, which are defined around data, those are adhered to. So typically, right, when you embrace a data to decision journey as an enterprise, these are the typical phases, okay, in which any data products build would happen. And then once that data product is ready, that data product will be managed. Okay, so that is where you are seeing, right? Um, Managing a data product and then managing data as a service. Okay, so these are two major areas, right? One is getting a data product created, and then once there is a product which is available for use, ensuring that there are right checks in place to ensure that that data is getting, or that data product is getting leveraged in a right way. So it all starts with a business sponsor or a business requirement, right? Wherein they plan different use cases, identify problem statements, and define outcomes, define decisions which they want to support using data, right? Accordingly, a data design architecture is created, right? Based on that architecture, based on the type of data points which are required for reporting, there's a data model which gets created. Uh, there is a choice of data platform which happens accordingly, how that data would get stored, right? How much storage would be required, uh, that gets defined. Now, for curating data, transforming that data, there are different rules, right? Business rules which gets applied, and that is where the data integration part comes into picture. And once all the curated data is ready, it is put into you might have heard about terms data warehouse, data products, data warehouse, data marts, right? Wherein from where it is actually exposed to business, right? So business uses the data structures within that data mart, data warehouse to to make decisions. Okay, so there are different BI tools which sit on top of these data models, and there are businesses who are trained to work with these tools to leverage the power of data and make decisions. And accordingly, based on the level of access which is required, the type of role a user is playing, there is a necessary data security check which gets applied. Um, from a data service standpoint, right, it is more about defining the right authorization so that the right people are able to see it. Right? Think of it as a more administrative work, right, which usually the platform admins do. Securing the data, managing the accesses. If there are any failures, right, this is the group which ensures that the business continuity is maintained and any any uh, any service related issues, those are actually captured and mitigated as per a standard operating procedure. Nowadays, security and data privacy again is has become a buzzword. Okay, so with so much data getting generated, ensuring that the data privacy rules, right, there are different norms around which personal data, right, for any individual, it should not get exposed. So any responsible enterprise which is working to manage this data, they should ensure that they didn't have the necessary checks and balances in place to ensure that data privacy and other security regulation related information, any of those norms are not compromised. So finally, when we operate with data, right, based on whatever we have discussed so far, you can imagine, right, the way industry is moving. These are some typical roles which are emerging out of data. These roles can be categorized primarily into three buckets. One is business, second is development, third is from a service excellence standpoint. Okay, so if we talk about business, usually the head of data is the business sponsor, right? Who actually defines the data roadmap. This is the person, right, who is responsible for creating a product roadmap wherein different use cases are identified. And then accordingly, there is a team on ground which ensures that the systems are enabled to get those necessary uh, reports, artifacts, analytics, related things created. Then there's a data owner role. Data owner usually is a subject area wise, right? It can be, say, there can be a person from the HR group who knows all about HR data, right? And this is particularly a person from business who owns a particular subject area. At the same time, this person is well equipped to actually plan use cases and outcomes which can be derived from that data where that person carries expertise. Data manager usually, right, deals with the data content, quality needs. This person is typically he or she manages uh, the continuous improvement, change related things, right? So what use cases should be prioritized? Uh, when should these use cases get ready? How to enable business around it? All the communication part is usually managed by the data manager. Finally, on the business side, we have a data user, right, who can ensure, again, this person is usually, say, this person operates closely with the source systems, right? He or she is able to create, update data within sources, right? And then this foundational data is used or it is curated further by the development team to make further decisions. Um, on the development side, there is a chief data officer is a new role. Again, this is the person whom you can see. This is a person who is more expert on the data side. He is able to create a technology roadmap around data as services. Okay, so different AI/ML tools, BI tools, data tools, which should be used within the organization to enable the right decisions. Okay, and then this particular function is supported by a data domain lead, a data architect, right? and a data expert, right, who are able to work closely with a CDO. They form a team to ensure the right set of solutions are created within the organization so that the necessary business needs are catered to. And then finally, from a service standpoint, these are certain roles, right? Some of whom actually, like a service manager, coordinates closely with both of these functions to ensure that the business continuity is met, right? Service agent usually determines a level one support, right? Who takes the calls to ensure if anything goes down, captures the requirement, and then assigns the right point of contact to get the necessary issues solved. While key user is somebody, sorry, I'm sorry. So and key user, right, is somebody who knows, he's like an advanced user who knows smart ways of playing around with data, and then any business questions, if there are there, this key user is able to solve them there. So finally, on the last slide, I know I'm a bit above time, but right. So
No, no
just to
worries, no worries, Tejesh. Until the seminar is going very much knowledgeable, I think it's okay with all of us.
okay, perfect. Thanks. So right. So just to summarize, right? So I'll not say that, right, all organization data is valuable, right? It is important to have the right strategy in place to ensure that data, right, or the best potential of the data is realized, right? And so that it can, so that this data can be leveraged to support any organization's needs for growth and sustenance. So I'm using both the words, okay, sustenance as well as growth. So when I talk about sustenance, right, so I've just tried to paint, right, so data doesn't mean AI, ML, or analytics all the time. Every bit of data you have in the organization is important. So for example, right, there is regulatory data which can be more about accounting data, taxation data, right, audit data. This is something which every organization should be managing, right? It's very important for their sustenance. Business continuity related data. So imagine an order, right, which is given on an Amazon or a Flipkart app, right? So the entire life cycle of an order, right from somebody ordering something till the time that particular order is delivered, right? That entire life cycle of an order, right? These are critical activities which are business critical for, say, a company like Amazon, which is managing some online retail, right? So that is also a very important data, which is important for our sustenance. Now, when we talk about growth, uh, critical reporting data, right? So as we talked about earlier, right? So retail data, Reliance Trends, Reliance Digital, 1,500 stores, thousands of stores, right, across the country, right? How do they get data from every store, right, into a single warehouse, use that aggregated data to make informed decisions about what sales happened yesterday, what sales happened last week, comparing my sales against last year, coming up with some weekly trends, so that the necessary tracking inventory, right? Which product within a store is less on stock, out of stock, what stock is available within my distribution center, right? How fast I can fulfill any stock requirement uh, for a given store. So the entire supply chain side of things, sales is one area, inventory is one area. So within each domain, there are so many areas, right, where these reports are very useful. And that is where specific to subject areas, usually, right, for the customers we work with, we have enabled BI reporting, wherein we use these BI tools to create certain reports for buyers, certain reports for store managers, certain reports for the CEOs based on the type of decisions they take. So that is where this critical reporting, aggregated reporting becomes important for growth as well as sustenance. As we
Correct.
mature further, just last couple of points, right? So the enterprises then further mature and use this data for deriving their company strategies. That is where they then start integrating outside data, competitor data into, right, their enterprise data, and try to do some more strategic decisions using data, right? Must win battles, right? If, say, for a manufacturing organization, cost always is a big challenge. So, if the target is to bring down cost by 2%, right, so that the margins improve. So, uh, having actions defined around it and then making sure that such actions are supported by data becomes key at this level of maturity. And then finally, the enterprises, right, which have matured, right, who are able to cater to most of their internal needs using data. Um, they at times also choose to use data as a business product, wherein, as we said, they leverage this data, they share this data outside, they sell this data, right? And that's where they are able to monetize data as well. Again, this is something which an organization can do, and then there are some organizations which specifically do that, right? The likes of Facebooks, LinkedIn's, Twitters of the world. Their entire business is around data. So they have built a data product, right, which has given them billions of dollars. So that is something, right? So I would just conclude by saying, right, data is an important asset, as we saw, right? But to bring the right value out of data, it is very important that we manage and govern data well. We enable the right people roles so that the uh, necessary processes around data are established. And finally, within an organization, bringing in the right data literacy, having the right data literate people uh, is a key now. So any organization, right, who wants to succeed, wants to have a competitive edge, it's very important for them to have associates who are able to use data to make decisions. And that is where I think right, use of data to support decisions becomes a key. So I think with that note, I'll take a pause. So team, in case anybody has any questions, inputs, do let me know. And
Thanks.
thank
Thank you. It was a very insightful session. So anyone who has a question or meanwhile, if you prepare, I can throw a question
sure.
to Tejesh, requesting him to please answer it. Anyone has any question? I'll give a privilege to others first. Swapnil was very active yesterday. So yes, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it.
Right, sir. Sir, my question is that we have to use a different tool for the different use cases.
See, again, so choice of tools, according to me, is a secondary decision. Okay, so it all depends on the problem which needs to be solved. So if you want to take an operational decision, even an Excel, right, can help you take decisions. But if you are, say, working, say, for example, I'll give you an example, right? I'm working currently on creating a data product for a media customer, okay? For them, every day we ingest, and that media customer, by the way, is hosting Olympics, which started yesterday. So for them, every day, 5 terabytes of data lands, right?
My
And
goodness,
then,
5 terabyte.
yeah, 5 terabytes of data every day,
That is huge.
right? And that is where, right, the choice of tools, right, which we use to cater that value, that amount of data it is dependent on, right, the type of processing we want to do on top of it. So with 5 terabytes of data coming in, we have gone for an architecture which is more, say, you might have heard, right, which is more compliant with big data technologies on cloud. Okay, and then accordingly we use the necessary tools and technologies to process data, and then on top of which we use BI tools. Okay, so currently, say in that example, we use MicroStrategy as the BI tool, because we feel that, and MicroStrategy is an enterprise tool which can support all use cases, all decisions which that business wants to support, right? So they do self-service reporting, right? So business creates their own reports, they share those reports externally. So to me, and again, now if they want to do AI ML, right? So MicroStrategy as a tool or Tableau, right? They have limitations there. So that is where there are different AI ML tools now available in market. So if say you, if as a individual knows how to do Python coding, they know how to use, right, R, right, as an integration tool. So I'm sorry. So they can use those, but there are some, right, automated tools now available in the markets. There are co-pilots who can do those things for you. So again, the choice depends on, right, what things get the problem solved, and then again considerations like cost, right, and everything are still there. So there's no clear answer, I would say. It all depends on the use case and the problem you wish to solve.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. I'll
Great.
stop sharing.
Anyone else would like to put a question, please? So, Tejesh, when you were explaining about data ownership, I noted down one particular thought which you expressed, that what I understood is that there is an existing client for which some data has been collected or might be the client must have given. And then using that particular data, so some insights can be developed and it can be shared, if not specific to the previous client, to the external client as well. So those reports can be shared. So
no, so I think it's a bit different. So usually what we do, Paliwar sir, is we uh, work in the client ecosystems. Okay, so we are not allowed to use their data for our purposes, first of all. Okay, so we actually have access to their enterprise systems. Okay, we access them. We work in a very secured environment wherein data is not allowed to move out of their systems, and we build all the analysis reporting within that ecosystem. Now it is client's decision to sell that data outside. Okay, so if they feel that they have actually created a data product, right, which can be monetized in the market, so they can do that as well. So for example, right, the media customer I talked about, so it's a digital media company, right, a very big US media giant. So they have a OTT platform, the way we have Geo Cinema, Netflix, right? They have their own OTT platform. And then, right, there are advertisements, as we know, when we watch any content, there are advertisements which come in. Now, an advertiser wants to, right, decide for which shows they should be advertising. So, right, now every show has its own user base in a way. So some shows are watched by young adults. Some shows are particularly watched by people of older genre, right? So based on customer preferences, right? An advertiser needs to decide, okay, so for which shows they should be putting their advertisements. So for which they need data. Now,
Right.
this media giant, right, is actually working to build a platform through which they can share the necessary information. They can sell that necessary information to their advertisers. So that they can monetize from the data itself, from data as well, apart from typical, right, subscriptions they
The
get.
business model, they can also sell this data and earn a revenue for their
Yes,
organization.
that is their additional revenue source, apart from, right, the primary revenue which they get from the sale of subscriptions within the OTT platforms.
Correct, correct. Great. So I think if there are no questions, I will summarize it up and then we can close the session. Okay, so thanks, Tejesh. Thanks a lot. So we had discussed about data ownership, robust processes. Then you also expressed mentioned the details about elements of data-driven organization, how important it is. Data lakes was the concept which has penetrated my mind, that how it can be useful for decision making. Tools you expressed, yes, we'll be covering that in our own diploma program. Data as a product and data as a service, we definitely through this example itself we understood that how it could be, and definitely that pyramid as well as the data ownership and roles, the circular diagram which you have shown right from the start, you showed the diamond till the end, we were intact to it. So wonderfully expressed, it was very insightful, and I'm sure that the participants must have got too much of insights into what, how, why we are saying that data is today's new oil. So we have definitely justified these today's session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tejesh, for sparing your valuable time, and to all the participants for this webinar. Thank you and best wishes. Looking forward to meet you all very soon. Okay, the next 1 minute, just before we close, let me are you able to see my slides? I want to show a good information piece of to all of you. 1 minute, I'll share my screen now. Okay. Visible, my slide is visible to all?
No, sir.
Yeah,
Now,
it's visible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
great. So a good piece of information for.
And this had ballooned to 1,163 in 2024. Just the past year has seen 70 new varsities come up. India Today's Best Universities of India ranking takes a look at the top universities across 5 categories: general government, general private, medical, technical, and law. The 2024 rankings show that the private side lists is topped by Pune's Symbiosis International. For more detailed rankings and insights into what makes these universities tick, check out our website at bestcolleges.indiatoday.in.
So what I was trying to tell you, all of you, is that it is not me who is putting it. It is the India Today who has mentioned that amongst those 5 categories, so Symbiosis has been ranked across India as the best university to pursue your degree, diploma, or other programs and pursue your good career and get good placements. With this note, thank you all of you. Best wishes and happy weekend. Thanks, Tejesh.
Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.